Carla, you're going to lead us in the pledge.
I haven't done that in a long time.
Amina.
Chair.
Okay, Brenda's on. Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Today's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Let's all rise, and Carla Miklos from Operation Hope will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item number 3, the resignation Charter Revision Commission. Jane Biagini, Democrat, 480 Catamount Road, term 11/24 until completion, resigned on February 5th, 2025 for personal reasons. We'd like to thank Jane for her service. In particular, she is an expert on ethics. It's very helpful to the town and the commission on that. We had eight members of the board. We now have 7 members, so I don't believe there's a need to find a new member. 7 is the normal number. So the next item number 4, is appointment to the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board as a full member. James P. Pazzi, Democrat, 5 Woodcrest Road, term 11/24 to 11/28. And this is an added position created per town ordinance. Is James on the line? Hey, James.
Hey guys, I just joined. Yes.
May I have a motion? James, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi everybody. So my name is James Posey. Been a resident of Fairfield for the past just over 4 years or so. My wife and I moved from New York City during the pandemic and have been enjoying the town. We just welcomed our daughter Amelia, our firstborn, just a few months ago, which is also very exciting. And,
Congratulations.
I'm also an alum of Fairfield University, so really excited to come back to this area, and I've been enjoying it very much so. And I've been wanting to get more involved with the town, and I saw there was an opening in the Flood Resilience Board, so I got connected with Becky and attended last night's evening as a resident. I really enjoyed the work that we're doing, and you know, my professional background is insurance. Don't hold it against me. I think insurance plays an important role in the housing market, and the industry can be doing a lot more for proactive risk management. And so I think that pairs really well with some of the work that the town's doing, and I'm excited to get more involved.
Well, I think you add a lot to this board with your FEMA insurance program experience, and hopefully you'll come to the meeting. We're going to have a town hall meeting on tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow night. That Becky Bunnell is heading up. So hope to see you there or at another meeting. But thank you for stepping up. You definitely add a new dimension to this board. Any comments?
Agreed. Welcome back to Fairfield. Congratulations on the birth of your daughter, and appreciate you volunteering.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And I come from a similar background, so don't make fun of it.
Yeah, no. Okay.
So, okay, Brenda.
Yes, welcome aboard, and congratulations on your new child.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you so much for stepping up, and I hope to meet you soon in person.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 5, purchasing authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and In Situ Form Technologies, LLC of Chesterfield, Missouri, to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and else necessary to conduct gravity sewer pipe rehabilitation and repairs as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-16 and the In Situ Form Technologies bid submission dated January 30th, 2025 for a total base contract of $863,000 and $863,000 $1,003, with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed the approved funding for this project. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So
Bill, before
Adam,
we do this, do you want to let James know that he doesn't have to stay on? He doesn't want to.
James, you don't have to stick around unless you're interested in flood and sewer pipes.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested. Thank you. Thank you for,
I wanted to let you know.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Adam, do you want to start? And then Michelle, would you?
Beata is actually going to.
Oh,
present on
Beata.
behalf of
Okay.
WPCA.
Cool. Adam, why don't you kick us off?
Sure thing. Yep. This is Adam Tulin, Director of Purchasing. Just briefly, we put out bid 2025-16. We received 3 responses. I think if you look at the numbers, 2 of them were pretty close. So that's always kind of a nice indicator, that the specs were tight. This project was designed by Wright Pierce, and as Michelle mentioned, Beata from Capital Projects team will be, it was heavily involved in the bid and will be involved moving forward. One thing I wanted to note was that as a part of the bid doc, we included contract documents, which I just wanted to mention that because that's something we've been working towards to try to streamline getting contracts approved. So that was a big step forward for us, getting the contract, a sample of the contract included in the bid documents. Then we're hoping we'll start to move projects along a little quicker. It's an EJCDC contract, which is an industry standard contract that engineers use. And we're just here to get your authorization to proceed with that.
Thank you, Adam. That was the first thing I asked Michelle when I saw her. I said, "Is this like a new standard contract?" I guess that is a huge step forward. So thanks for taking the lead on that, pushing that through. Beata, you should. I'd like to if for those who haven't met Beata yet, Beata Orson is an engineer, professional engineer in the capital projects management team, and she is working on a lot of the sewer infrastructure projects and other projects. Welcome. Typically you would stand up there so we make sure you're captured on. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're not captured.
Right.
Oh, there you are. Okay, good. Yeah.
So this is inflow and infiltration project, and the project consists of essentially lining the city sewers to prevent infiltration water from getting to the sewers. Roughly, we have about 16,000 linear feet of the sewer lines that would be aligned by the contractor that we have selected. This is sort of in situ technology that is using concrete lining process for the sewers, so there will be no excavation on the street, there will be no intrusion on the street. So sort of like a less invasive technology for lining the sewers. We anticipate the work will start in April of this year and will conclude later in a year, I want to say by December 2025. So we are comfortable with the contractor that is the lowest bidder. We're comfortable with his performance on similar projects of the nature, and looking forward to implement the project so that the rate of infiltration to the sewer lines can be reduced, and hence the wastewater treatment plant will receive less water to treat it.
I'm curious. How did you select the areas? Did you have to do infrared? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. What happens is that I think in 2024 or maybe 2023, the WPCF is doing sort of a CCTV, which is the inspection of the sewers to identify. Essentially, they put the camera into the sewers and they identify the areas that are having leakage, as to speak. And based on the results of that surveys, a plan is being developed to line the lines that have leakage, right? So that's.
Is there an expected useful life of a concrete liner?
Yeah, based on the literature that different contractors are providing, you can expect anywhere from 50 to 100 years of service. So it's a good technology, it's widely used by a lot of municipalities, and it's quite effective. So it's a quick method of, I want to say, of getting in, lining the sewers, preventing the infiltration water of getting in. And then, and this way we don't have a need to replace those lines for 50 years.
I was expecting you to say 15 to 20 years and you said 50 to 100 years, which is, that's awesome. Okay, thank you. Any questions? No, you can't, I'm sorry, but you can talk to me afterwards. Any questions from the board?
I would just, well, I want to have a statement and a question. I just want to recognize and thank Mr. Marsilio for bringing this to the town's attention back when this first came to light, that we were literally spending money on filtrating water as opposed to sewage. So this was really a good thing. And I'm glad we're moving forward with it. I would ask though, Adam, were any of the companies that bid from Connecticut?
I'm trying to think. I think the closest one was from Massachusetts, if I remember correctly.
Okay. I mean, I know
Yeah,
that
one
sometimes-
Connecticut National Water Main Services is from Connecticut. It's a Connecticut-based company.
this company,
Oh, they have office in Connecticut, right? Michelle is helping. Yeah.
this company,
This company, they're headquartered
This
in
company-
Missouri.
No, they're not in Connecticut, no.
so I know that, when I was a legislator, sometimes we would try to give preference or reverence to companies that were based in our own state. And I don't know if that's something we should look into trying to do in Fairfield. I mean, listen, God bless them, but if we had a couple of close bids, I'd preferably like to have Fairfield tax dollars going to a Connecticut company as opposed to a Connecticut that's not inside of our state.
If I could just say, the Board of Finance recently brought back to life the Purchasing Policy Subcommittee. And this is something that I'm going to be working on with them. So I'm glad to hear that you would support something like that, because it's something I've experienced in other towns, and I think it could be a good idea.
Thank you. Is the purchasing policy finished, or is that still an ongoing situation?
It's finished. It's final.
Okay, that was a long one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your answers. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public?
Is there a warranty if something goes wrong a couple of years down the road? Is that built into the contract?
So I would like to say it's not usually Q&A, but so when you go to the public, it's typically commentary, but is there a warranty on this type of work?
There is a warranty on this type of work. So there's warranty related to the product that the contractor will be using, and warranty related to the workmanship. Right?
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. So, yeah, and before we go on to the next one, I would like to just briefly follow up on something that that Selectwoman Kupchak said. So John Marsilio, when I first came into office, he sat me down, he said, in the past, there was a plan to really focus on the facility, the plant, and spend a lot of money increasing the capacity of the plant. And he thought that the first thing that should be fixed was the inflow and infiltration. And his logic was overwhelmingly, logical. So So, and that is really, while the plant needs significant upgrades, not necessarily capacity, it's more making sure that it functions. And there is a huge effort now with Beata and Michelle Gore to decrease the infiltration and inflow. So it's been a real shift in the way that we've looked at the system. And I think it's the right direction. So thank you. Okay, item number 6, purchasing authority. To hear, consider and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and National Water Main Cleaning Company of Canton, Massachusetts, to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to conduct gravity sewer manhole rehabilitation and repairs as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-37 and the National Water Main Company bid submission dated January 27, 2025, for a total base contract of $283,900 with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed the approved funding for this project. May I have a motion?
Second.
Adam, would you like to? Yeah.
Yep. This is very similar to the previous contract. I believe they're actually, designed at the same time. We ended up feeling that there could be some benefit to the town to separate them into 2 separate contracts, 2 separate bids, and also, that we might be able to capture some different vendors. It ended up being pretty much the same, but in terms of who responded. But I think there was one variation in vendors. I thought that the dollar amounts were all pretty close. I thought that was a good sign again, and we're recommending an award to the lowest bidder.
Gada, would you like to just explain how manholes play a role? And
Right, so manholes are the structures that connect the pipe from one end to the other one. They are structures within the city streets. And again, the infiltration water is getting through the manhole covers or through the structure of the manhole when the structure is not tight. So the idea of this was, as Adam alluded, the work was supposed to be done all in one phase from the point of view of lining the sewer and lining the manholes. We broke the project into 2 phases so that we have, we can expedite the completion of the project by using different vendors, different contractors. One is more aligned with doing, in situ lining of the sewers. The second is more aligned in doing the manhole rehabilitation. So essentially same concept, stopping the rainwater or infiltration water of getting to the sewers and reducing the inflow of water to the wastewater treatment plant. The project will start mid-April and will run through the end of the year, as I said, and anywhere from 180 to 220 days. And we are familiar with the vendor to do the manhole job, and that's pretty much pre-standard service, maintenance service.
I forget, do we have any manholes that are actually below the sea level elevation?
Well, I'm sure you probably do, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, any comments? Yeah.
Just from coordinating these 2 different vendors, is the pipes going to be done first and then the manholes? Would they be working in different parts of town?
Yes, so the work on the manholes will start, I want to say, the beginning of April. The work on the sewers will start mid of April. So maybe 2 weeks of difference. The idea is that we want to start in April is so that there are certain streets within the town within the location of the beach access. So we want to address and work on those areas first before the summer kicks in. That answers the question.
Do you do the pipes first or the manhole? Like, does it make a difference which?
No, it does not make a difference.
Do you expect to be managing this project
Yeah, I'm expecting to be the managing the project. We're gonna have to also tap into, into outside source for the on-site inspections. There has to be a person at least part-time to kind of look over the vendors' shoulders, make sure they doing everything with the specifications, and that, you know, at the end, we get the product that we want to get.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Selectwoman Kupchak? That's it. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
So I think that's it.
Okay, great.
Don't feel compelled to stick around. Item number 8, Community and Economic Development Director. Oh, item number 7, thank you. Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the Purchasing Authority to enter into the proposed telecommunications service agreement between the town of Fairfield and Go NetSpeed to provide internet service to the town facility at Penfield Pavilion. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions and to enter into additional agreements with Go NetSpeed on similar terms and conditions with other town properties. May I have a motion? Dave, good to see you.
Good to see you. This is another $99.95 a month internet connection to bring Penfield Pavilion back onto the internet through Go NetSpeed. It's the very low cost way to get a site on the internet without going a full fiber build out.
Fantastic. Any questions or comments from the board?
We approved them for Jennings.
Yep, twice.
So just the way this is worded, similar terms and conditions for other town properties. So if there was another town.
I think the intent is to not
You
keep
don't have to
coming
come
back
back,
for the
yeah.
$99 a month items, if that would be okay with you guys.
I would be fine with that. Just put it on the record here.
Yep. Any other comments from the board or questions? Seeing none, comments from the public? No one is against Go NetSpeed. Okay, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Unanimous. Thanks, David. So we will never have to hear from you on this topic.
Thank you.
No more 99. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Item number 8, Community and Economic Development Director. This requires RTM approval. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Director of Community and Economic Development. Resolved that the town of Fairfield, by its first selectman, William A. Gerber, is authorized to enter into a ground lease for town-owned property located at 488 Tungus Hill Road with Operation Hope of Fairfield, LLC, for a term of 75 years, and further resolved that the town of Fairfield agrees to provide Operation Hope of Fairfield, LLC, with a no-interest loan in the amount of $300,000 to complete the purchase acquisition of 554 Tungus Hill Road as secured by a promissory note and mortgage on said property, and further resolved that First Selectman William A. Gerber is authorized to execute all documents in connection thereto. May I have a motion?
Second.
Good afternoon. For the record, Mark Barnhart, Director of Community Economic Development. I have just one minor correction for your consideration with respect to the resolution. It's my bad. The correct term of Operation Hope of Fairfield is Operation Hope of Fairfield, Inc., not LLC. So if you wouldn't mind making that correction and where it is so noted. But this, just to back up and provide some context and background on this. This has been a long time in coming. Our office has been working with Operation Hope to help identify locations in town with which to relocate, consolidate their offices, as well as their homeless support services, including their soup kitchen, food pantry, somewhere in town for a number of years. And we had identified 488 Tungus Hill as a potential location. It's a bit small for their overall needs, but we thought with another property nearby that this could potentially serve their future needs and requirements. But it was, we had to go back through the public act through which the town originally acquired the property from the state of Connecticut to allow for our ability to lease or sell the property to Operation Hope, a community nonprofit. And this board signaled its intent and helped support our efforts to modify that public act back in 2023. So we're now at the point where we're presenting to you a proposed ground lease of 75 years for the property. We're proposing a ground lease because if we were to sell the property, we'd have to sell it at fair market value based on three quotes, appraisals that are conducted suitable for the state of Connecticut, and those proceeds of the sale would go back to the state. Can ground lease it at very minimal cost, we're proposing $1 a year. But as I said, the property itself is quite modest. It's currently improved with a single-story building, which is in very poor condition. At one point, the town had actually looked at taking down the building rather than maintaining it. And then we went through the process of looking at alternative uses, including potentially leasing it to Operation Hope. What's changed recently is that Operation Hope has identified and entered into a contract with the Missionary Society, which owns the church property at 554 Tunxus Hill. They're proposing to purchase that property, which would give them additional facilities, including parking, to meet their requirements. And in conjunction with that, the proposed purchase price is a bit more than we had hoped. I think when we started this process, Operation Hope had secured a $1.5 million grant from the state of Connecticut. The proposed purchase price, the net cost is 1.8. And so we're proposing in the context of this is to lease that or to loan that amount of money, the gap financing of $300,000 as a no interest loan secured through a promissory note mortgage for the same term, with the town maintaining a right of first option, right of first refusal should Operation Hope decide to dispose and sell the property in the future. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy to take any questions. I will note that I'm joined today by Carla Miklos, the Executive Director of Operation Hope, Darren Fodor, Chairman of the Board, and Jack Mirabal, who is the Building Committee Chair. And we've been in conversations discussing that for a number of months now. I will also note for the record that the lease documents, they're stamped draft. They have not been finalized, but I don't expect anything substantively different as we continue our discussions with them than what's being presented to the board today. Happy to take any questions you have at this time.
Well, just as history, I think Selectwoman Kupchik is very familiar with this. These conversations started while she was in office. The property on Tunxus Hill is a great property, but didn't provide enough parking for the people that would come. So they were looking at the property behind it, and those conversations have been going on for I think a couple of years. Initially, I believe, Carla, you were looking at maybe renting just a space to be able to park there, or and that wasn't amenable to them. So yeah, good.
I think we've at one point or another approached all the abutting property owners to determine whether or not any of their properties would be available and at a reasonable price. And if we pursued those to finality, and this was the one that obviously we were able to come to an agreement on above what we had hoped to purchase the property for, but it's within reason. So it does meet their.
I'm just saying, I always knew about Operation Hope and made lunches for Operation Hope, but since taking office, done more due diligence, it's really clear to me that Operation Hope performs a vital function for the town. a function that had, if they were not performing that, it would have to be performed by the town itself. And I think Operation Hope's, you know, they're feeding 800 Fairfield families. They're open, you know, meals 5 days a week, 2 meals a day, 52 weeks a year. How many units? 42 units of housing in town, to out of town. The housing is supportive, so they support the people in those houses and ensure that they get, you know, ensure that they get the support they need to be able to function, and if you know, that they have the services they need to be active and happy and contributing members of society. And so the reason the town has agreed, the reason we have agreed to help with the purchase of the property behind Operation Hope, but behind the Tunstall properties, we believe that it's an incredibly good investment for the town. First of all, it consolidates two properties. Right now, Operation Hope's properties are split in 2 locations. One is the pantry, one is a town property. We definitely need the town property at some point for police and fire. And it's not ideal to be in 2 properties regardless. And the other property, that lease is coming up. So we would be in danger of losing Operation Hope, and that's something that we're not willing to do. So Carla, you should probably say a few words. Yeah.
You took most of my words.
Oh, did I? Yeah, sorry.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
I'd just like to start by thanking Selectwoman Kupchak for all your hard work, Mark for all your hard work, and Bill for picking it up and running with it and getting us to this point. I really appreciate it. So you kind of heard why we're important to the town, but I think, you know, I hope that for the record, people realize what would happen if we weren't here and why it's important for us to move forward. We're actually celebrating 40 years of serving this community, starting out as a small shelter and community kitchen to what we are today, which is a small business that has 35 staff people, about 100 volunteers, and we're serving over 1,700 local households in a year. Many of the people who use our pantry are people that are your neighbors and friends that you may not realize are struggling, seniors and others. And our community kitchen is a lifeline for a lot of people. And the housing, you know, is exactly what many people need and has been quietly serving this community. Nobody even knows where they are, and you don't need to because the people are thriving. So, you know, when it became apparent that both of our locations were no longer suitable or really going to be available long-term, it became kind of a crisis for us. And so we're very lucky to be at this point. What we're asking for, we believe, is reasonable considering our contribution to the community and the fact that we've never really approached you for much support. We've tried to maintain, you know, private support as much as possible, along with a lot of state and local and federal funding that we don't know what will happen to, but we're going to assume that good things will prevail. And, you know, there is somewhat of a push for those of you who don't know or who later on watch this. The current location where our food pantry and our administrative offices and our social work team is located is slated to be the future home for the Great Famine Museum, which had been closed at Quinnipiac University and is kind of shuttered right now. And it's a good location for them, and it's a good location for the town because it kind of creates a museum space. And you know, we're happy to allow that to happen. We just need to be there as long as we need to be there. So, you know, I'm grateful for all the support, and the interaction and communication has been very good for many years with the town, and I appreciate it so much. And if I can just give out a little shout out to Jackie Durrell for having the foresight to give us that property many, many years ago and put us in motion. It's been a blessing for me to be a part of that fabric for almost 20 years now. So, and I don't know if anyone has any questions for me or if you want me to answer any questions, but it's a simple project. It's only complicated for us.
That's true.
I would imagine, Selectwoman Kupchak, you may not have questions, but would you like to make some comments?
Yes, I'm so excited, Carla. You have worked so hard on this for so long. I looked at every single space along with Mark, looking at every single space that you could possibly deliver services in and have it ripped out from under you, and working so hard to try to do this. And, you know, when we were finally able to secure that property on Tunxus Hill, we thought, oh, home run. And then the state said, the resolution isn't worded the right way. And even though we begged and pleaded for them to allow it, we had to wait. And it's just been such a long road. And, you know, I've watched you run that organization for 20 years, all of your 20 years. And you have really turned this operation into such an amazing resource that it touches so many lives. It's just, I'm so excited. I could cry. I really am so happy because this is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be so much hard work for you to get to the point of amazing, but it's going to be so amazing. And God bless you, because you're the one who's really been at the forefront from the very beginning, and you have so much stamina and dedication and commitment. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, and I think it's worth noting that after you acquire the property, they're gonna have to raise a lot of money to build the new building. So, you know, we'll be helping to promote that in any way we can.
We have a heavy lift ahead of us.
Yes.
And so we hope that there remains lots of positive conversation about this so that the community feels comfortable sharing their resources with us.
Absolutely. This is going to be good.
Christine.
Just want to thank you, Mark, Carla, Brenda, just for all of your hard work and for the service that you provide for our community, and so aptly named Operation Hope, because you just give hope to so many people, both that use your services and also those community members, from our youngest children on up to our seniors, just in terms of community. And you provide that in so many ways. So happy to support this. Grateful for the work. And yeah, spread the word about fundraising. Just in terms of timing, you know, there seems like there's a couple of different pieces that need to fit together in order to move this forward. Can you just, providing we, approve this?
Maybe Mark will, and I just want to make a quick statement about what you said. I think that Operation Hope, since I've been there, we've realized that as important as it is for us to serve others in the community, it's also important for us to provide a venue for service for the rest of the community. And so what you were speaking about, I think that's a duality of who we are and what we're trying to do here, so.
Well, I can just, from my own personal experience, from just with my children, through junior league, through our family, just doing a tag sale, and so many people, I had to host one of the tag sales this summer, and so many people that just came and shopped and wanted to support you, and really just proud of the work that you do in Fairfield and proud to be a part of supporting you. So to the first selectman's point about needing to raise more money, happy to be a partner and supporting you in that work moving forward. And even if it's just to spread the word,
thank you for that.
I think to come to all of us coming together for this.
We're gonna need some open doors and some, friendly comments, so thank you for that. I'll let Mark.
There's a couple things, thank you for that question, because there's a couple of things obviously that has to happen here. We have a series of town approvals, both for the authorization to enter into a lease as well as to provide funding in the form of a loan. The lease itself would require a mandatory referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission under Connecticut General Statute 8-24, and then ultimately approval of the RTM. Which we would hope to present to them in March. The appropriation, my understanding is that the funding assistance would be wrapped into a capital non-recurring appropriation, which would be presented back through this board, as well as the Board of Finance and ultimately to the RTM as well. So we're hoping to have town approvals in place by the end of March that would enable Operation Hope then to move forward and close on the property. They have their own due diligence to complete with respect to the acquisition of the adjoining church property. And to be clear that the Operation Hope's ability to lease the town property is conditioned upon their successful acquisition of the adjoining and vice versa. So these kind of have to fit together. So we would anticipate a closing sometime this spring after all approvals and the due diligence period is in place. And then we're going to embark on a very ambitious capital campaign. My experience has been with construction, it would probably take all of 18 months to 24 months to build, but we've got to obviously raise the money first and then go through a full design and construction drawings that would have to take place. So we're probably a 3 to 4 year time frame, I think, easily. You know, and as Carla indicated, there is some time sensitivity because the two locations they're currently in either are being repurposed for other uses. The facility on Nichols Street, the town would like to reincorporate that into a public safety complex. So there's a need to relocate that. And then the property across the street where administrative offices are currently located, as well as the food pantry, is the future home of the Fairfield Great, the Famine Museum, Ireland Famine. I can't get the Great Hunger Museum. I have to work on that so I can market that properly, but we have a few years to figure that out. So it will be a few years down the road.
Awesome. Any comments from the public? Jack, do you want to?
Thank you.
Any?
No, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? None. Back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Unanimous. Congrats. And looking forward to. And I was just talking to Christine. We don't believe we needed to amend LLC to. It will just make that. That's just a errata that we can correct.
We'll just, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is.
Just make sure when we approve the minutes,
It'll be correct. Yeah. Item number 9, refunds. To consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount. I'm sorry. What? Where?
we had the waterfall.
Oh, you added something? I have an old version. I think I must have an old version. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, where that was removed from my version. Okay, what item are we on now? 9. So can I see?
I have my old version too, but we got added because we, just a reminder, it was on our last agenda and we made a motion to postpone it to this meeting. So it was a late addition to bring it up.
Yeah, let me pull that up just so I read it correctly. Do you have the resolution or?
We're not voting, it's just
Yeah,
an update.
okay, well, item number 9 is an update on the capital project and the waterfall, capital project list and the waterfall. Not a voting item, it's just an update for the courtesy of the Board of Selectmen. We originally had this on the agenda, I think for last meeting, which was the day or two prior to the Board of Finance meeting, I believe, and wanted to talk about it here first for the Board of Finance meeting. But since we ran into some time constraints, we delayed it to this meeting. So we've already had this discussion at the Board of Finance. So anyone can go and see that, but we're gonna do a quick summary today here on what we have already presented at the Board of Finance.
So, yeah, so we have now been bringing this every few months as we've been doing updates. So that, to some degree, I think we've hashed most of this over. Again, yes, thank you. It was at the Board of Finance meeting as well in detail. There is a new explanation schedule that we've created that gives a little bit more of sort of a guide to walking through the document and what the different sections are. And that it is, it's one document, but multiple sort of sections. So, high level, you're going to want to focus on the summary page. That summary page does start to show, a reduction in the current year as to how much we are anticipating to actually go out and bond. We are, as we mentioned to the Board of Finance and you, there are some projects that we may be asking for approval. We're mostly focusing on, from a bonding perspective in the waterfall, we're focusing on the actual cash flow now a lot more. So we may be coming and asking for approval on some things to get them in the works and get things ordered, things that may become more expensive over time if we don't do that, but we may not actually even have to pay for it for 3 or 4 years. So those are more represented out and further on the schedule. If you look on the schedule, there's a new column, additional project costs will need approval. And that's highlighted in yellow. And so that's column number C. And so I do want to just highlight that while that is listed there, in most of these instances, we're not actually talking about overruns on projects. We're talking that we actually collapsed some projects and said there's actually a previous, if you take work that was done on Independence Hall, we took numbers from another line and we actually moved it into this line and actually had a lower overall dollar amount. But we expanded this project so that we didn't have to open up new project codes and kept it a little more streamlined on the function. Same for capital and townwide facility upgrades, amongst other items. So you would notice those as the yellow column C. A big document, the part of this you want to focus on would be the changes sheet. So the changes sheet is a little bit more condensed. That's towards the back of the packet.
This is something that your team created. I don't think we had a changes sheet before.
Did not previously, and the changes sheet had grown at one point sort of to every single change that had existed, and actually became somewhat voluminous to try to comb through just moving from one cash flow year to another. So the new version, sort of this changes sheet, just focuses more on when there's actual increases and substantive changes that may occur, not so much just timing issues. And a big focus of the Board of Finance and one of their subcommittees was the focus to get the projected schedules to be below 9%. So you'll notice the very last page of the packet on the Phoenix Advisors sheet, which has the actual waterfall. It's a 2-page document. Column, second to last column, the DS, the total budget column. All of the years are currently now projected to be sub 9% at this point. And the Board of Finance Subcommittee and the WPCA have been taking up the allocation and guidance for the town to have a portion of that, but also to be more formulaic, why we're taking some on the town and why the WPCA is taking that there. And all of that has those assumptions, the first round of that have been incorporated in this as well.
Do you want to, just looking at the changes section, which is something that we can go over like quarterly, and the big ones, town hall complex, we have decided we're not likely to build a new annex on town hall.
Yes.
So,
Can I chime in there, Bill?
yeah,
So, I was looking at this today. It's hard to kind of follow along the way it is, but so I'm curious, the idea to add on to Independence Hall was based on the fact that Old Town Hall, as we all know, is in really poor shape. It is sinking into the ground, literally. It's got mushrooms growing in the carpet. The heat goes off all the time. They can't open their windows. It's our economic development is basically in the attic of the building. So I'm missing it. I tried to see if there are going to be any funds allocated to fix Old Town Hall and how much and what page is that on?
yes, we're renovating. We're going to renovate Old Town Hall.
This is universally incorporated to do both and to maximize the square footage between both buildings versus The placeholder number that we believe, if those plans have been enacted in today, would most likely actually be a larger project. The 8 million would probably consider to be a low end at this
Talking about the
stage.
addition.
Yeah, the original 8 million, which then still didn't address the physical Old Town Hall building and further needs, and then the rest of this building and reconfiguring to make it more efficient. So what we are looking to do is maximize the usage of both buildings, but bring both buildings up. And yes, that would address, there, a lot of the work is already underway at Old Town Hall, as you know, to address some of the footings and that type of work. But yes, the rest of that building would need to, if we're gonna continue to utilize it that way, would need real dollars put into it.
So I'm not aware of what we're doing to the footings, but did we approve money to do that? How much is that for the footing?
Structural work in the basement, essentially shoring up the structure, was approved. That was 5 or 6 years ago. That was approved. So that's been underway for some time, and so I think some of what you're bringing up about it sinking and some of the structural was already in process to shore the building up. I think that's.
So what page is this on? That we're saying that we're gonna do, where do we have it lined where we're gonna do renovations and upgrades to Old Town
It's
Hall?
listed as Indy Hall office renovation. That's the current project name.
What
When we go
page?
That's page
page
of the
one,
document.
it's page 3 of the overall document. It's page 1 of the actual capital plan itself, and it's sitting on line 2. So Indy Hall office renovation.
Hey, I'm sorry, I have all these
If
different,
you have,
I have the color coded one that says, starts with page
bottom?
12,
I
but
think
then
the
I have
easiest
these
thing,
other ones. Then,
there's details of changes made since the 9/24.
oh, okay, yep, I got that.
So if you go to the top of, it's labeled, it is, I mean, I'm looking at the PDF version. It's 23 out of 26, and it says Indy Hall renovation, $4 million. And then underneath that, there's town facility upgrades. So I believe that's where the elevator is for Old Town Hall.
So according to this document, what is this? It says 27, 2 million, 28, 2 million, and then 4 million in FY, well, I
4
don't know,
millions total,
4 million total
yeah,
to, oh,
to
that's
renovate Old Town Hall.
Old Town Hall?
It's both. We're considering this a complex, right? Town Hall and Old Town Hall, this says the both of the buildings are part of a complex. So we're putting this into one number, because when there, like, there's been talk for years about economic development moving over into this building instead, right? So there's gonna be some movement between the buildings. So some of this work will need to be done, to be sort of timed, appropriately between space here, space there, being able to move between the two buildings.
Right, so the plan that we had developed was to try to move probate to the old credit union space. Because they have it was spec'd out and looked at. I don't know what it would cost, because we never got that far.
Yeah, that's part of this.
That. Yeah.
And
Which
then
brings
move
us to-
economic development into the probate office area.
When we come for the full appropriation, we'll be at a point where we have the sort of the layouts of what we're looking to do, but be a little more comprehensive than that in the building for space.
So we think it's
but-
gonna be about 4 million for all of that to fix the building inside Old Town Hall, move renovate, retrofit, all of that.
Correct.
That doesn't, I mean, we've already
This is a-
allocated and spent money on like the elevator. There's other things that are in
Right.
separate buckets. So I know that you worked with Bucky Marsilio, and we worked with Bucky. We went out again to bring in a design, probably the same design company, and rework the plans, just because we were looking at so many capital needs for the town, and so much space that's used in this building for storage, a lot of documents that are in file cabinets. So we're gonna, a lot of this will be an effort to digitize and move stuff into storage that we can legally do. And the result was, yeah, we can do this with a renovation instead of a new build of an annex. So,
No,
just-
I hear you. That was, we looked at that too. Obviously, I thought digitizing was gonna be a lot easier. Obviously, it takes departments to go through all of their stuff, and that's
yeah.
a tremendous amount of their time. And that's kind of where we hit a roadblock. Because obviously, even if you just go into zoning, it's unbelievable how much paper is in there. It's
Yeah,
just unbelievable.
Zoning, engineering.
Yep,
Yeah.
in the basement, but we were able to, move IT out of the basement, which was a horrible location for anybody to have to work.
Right.
And, now they can work in, clean, space, and moving around, conservation giving building more room because they are so busy. But, 4 million, what is this based on, basically? Like, was the company that we hired to look at the buildings, did they give us this estimate for the
They
4?
didn't give us, they gave us the drawings.
It's a conceptual design number.
Mhm.
We're going to need to refine that number and then come to the boards with something that's more concrete. But internally, and then with the architect, we've done some rough analysis to get to that point. We do recognize that our goal here is to find ourselves in a significantly lower position than simply adding on. Reconfiguring space is always a lower price point than adding square footage, particularly in the current environment. And that's our goal here.
No, we were looking at that as well. And listen, I think it's one half dozen of the other to add new space. They said it would be cheaper than having to renovate a very old building. We had talked about potentially letting the museum take over Old Town Hall because, it's a beautiful historic building. Maybe using it to rent out, maybe let the RTM have it as a meeting area, something other than day-to-day operations because of the age and the amount of money it takes to fix such an old building. But I'm interested, so we're looking at 27 to start. Are we gonna have any information before 27 on this? 2027?
Well, that's fiscal 27 as well for bonding, so.
Well, it says 26 bond and then it says FY 27.
Fiscal FY 27 bonding would be going out to bond in the end of June of 26. So about a year from now for the
So then
bond.
we should, in that,
So we'd be
in
looking,
that square, it's not listed there as a bond, 26 bond.
no. No. That's
No, I don't. think
fiscal, I'm
it's-
talking fiscal year. So the answer is that sometime towards the latter portion of this year or the beginning of next, at the latest, if not sooner, we would come with something more concrete to ask for an allocation. And for the actual dollars, we are forecasting going out to bond in FY 27, but FY 27 from a fiscal perspective is actually going out to bond at the tail end of actually during 2026. Yeah.
So what, can I ask about the second one under that, town-wide facility upgrades? How much is this change from our capital in 23? How much is this?
This is general, this is continuing on that. There's some adjustments. So if we believe that we are going to do something in another building where this might have been covered. So, I'll give the example of fire, PD, there's certain items we've begun where we know we're going to be in those buildings doing more significant renovation. We have adjusted some of those items out, not to be duplicative. However, as listed in the notes, there is also, there's an escalation in the overall amount of 30%. Assuming escalation in costs and other soft costs that just what we know based on construction inflation, and the fact that this goes out essentially another 8 or 9 years. So you have to escalate it based on that. Otherwise, the substance of it is generally the same. It is spread out to allow The public works crew that's taking the lead on this to piece by piece, work through methodically like they have been. Continue their work.
So, but in terms of numbers, how has this line item changed from 22, 23 till now? How much?
I don't have that schedule in front of me, but if you were to look at those numbers, you draw down what's already spent, you'd add 30% to the total number as an escalator.
Because we got 18 million total. It says 18 million.
Well, no, 18 is because this was also listed in the prior schedules as 4 different phases. We've collapsed it into one project as a whole, and over time, we will request funding as needed to move through it each year. So they called it phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. The reality is like other things where they phased them over time, timing of things ebb
Go
and
to the
flow.
next page, you see negatives under townwide facilities upgraded it on a different line. And that's negative 15,080,981 on the following page.
Well, that's taking it off the other phases.
It's most of this is reclassifying it into one, or it's just moving the numbers around, but it's not a net increase.
So we don't have, okay, it's hard for me to kind of follow this, but are we still, there's not a lot of detail, like when we say based on, the townwide facility upgrades phase 1. I mean, could the board get more detail about exactly what is included in this estimate?
Well, we have the original report. That's what we've been working on.
Yeah, that was the.
Those are the things that were piece by piece.
Who's who did the report? Not Silver. Was it? No, not Silver. Was it Silver Petroselli? Maybe. They did a report for you.
Silver.
And I think we're still really using that as the basis.
Could we get that? Christine and I get a copy of it?
Yeah. I mean, I think you commissioned it, but
Right, I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if you're going off the same things, if you've changed things, added things. It's kind of hard to tell.
Okay, we'll get you the original.
For this, it's primarily been driven off of that report. So we are taking items off and not doing them, and they've been factored to not be in this number if they're part of other upcoming near-term projects. But otherwise, that group has been working steadily through that report piece by piece. But that report, to work through it in whole, it's another decade of working through the priorities, which is why we have allocated that estimate of $1 million a year for them to continue to try to work through it. But we can get you we can get you a copy of that report.
Okay, that'd be great. Are we still maintaining a bonding cap for the town and the school district so that we're not going over our skis on bonding?
As a whole, and this was discussed at length within the Board of Finance subcommittee recently. We are staying under 10% of our as our debt service to our overall budget. And we are, from a planning perspective, we're forecasting to stay under 9% for planning purposes, which keeps a God forbid sort of 1 point contingency factor in there. So we are not using firm annual approval amounts anymore. That's been I think that was
We're using
decided
this
at the capital
schedule.
planning summit.
So what are we expecting to spend per year though? What are we saying we don't want to bond more than? Is it
We don't wanna-
37.5? Is it?
Well,
less?
it's
Is it more?
9% of expenses.
So
So
how much is that?
So if you look at the summary sheet and then you look at the waterfall at the beginning and you look at the waterfall at the end, that's how you would see the breakout and what that translates to. So
What's the number?
there's not a fixed annual number. The numbers can change year over year. They can, what you need to do is make sure that when it flows to the waterfall, which is what actually hits the debt service budget line, that number of payments is maintained at below 9%. which is represented on the waterfall.
Right, but the town has always slotted our waterfall projects based on how much we could afford, either on our own dime or bonding. So what, I understand you're saying, it's kind of one half dozen or the other, but it's hard for the average citizen to understand this, 9%, and we're flowing things and, but what are we actually saying we're gonna be bonding per year? Because we have financial people tell us, people who are way smarter than I am, that we shouldn't be bonding more than 37.5 approximately per year to make sure that we're on solid fiscal ground. So it's hard for me to understand what you're saying to me.
Um, well, we have a waterfall, as part of the backup. So, yeah, so the waterfall in the backup gives the numbers, I believe, right? Or,
Right, but there's a lot of numbers, but at the bottom line, do we have a philosophy, or are we trying to not put too much on our credit card, our town credit card?
of course, we have a philosophy. We have a philosophy that we've articulated, and been agreed by the Board of Finance not to plan to go above 9% of our expenses. And that has been, reviewed with the Board of Finance, and that's where we are. So if the policy's always been 10%. And I'm sure you remember that, but you may have fixed a number, but that would be just one budget year. But going forward, we're going to target 9% with 1% of like emergency if something happens. So whatever the budget will be for the coming year, we're going to target 9% of that for debt payment.
Now,
That will translate into a number depending on the budget.
now WPCA's debt, we're not moving that off the town, are we, and moving it on to them? Are we changing that in some way?
There is, well, they've never really issued a lot of debt, so it's kind of a new concept, with these plans to do the things that we were talking about today, and new pipelines and all that. There will be a proposal about how to split those with the town coming from the WPCA. They haven't come forward with that yet, but the big project that we just did for the East Trunk, we split it 50-50. Town and WPCA. The philosophy was that it is a large commercial. That the Metro Center is a main driver of that, which will be a big component of the grand list growth. And so where there's commercial growth and big, tax-based growth for the town, that it should be split. Where it's purely for the benefit of existing sewer users, it wouldn't be split 50-50. It might be 80-20. They are coming forward, I believe, very soon to present this to the Board of Finance.
Well, I'd like to get I'd like them to also share some information with us, because I think we have to be very cautious. I think people don't realize that the WPCA is the only, commission in town that has a taxing authority. And so, if we don't count their debt, I mean, it's still a real, it could have a huge impact on our community and our taxpayers. So, we move the debt off our rolls, and then the WPCA can just raise taxes on, and I know people are already getting kind of increases on their water usage, that they have that authority. So I want to be able to make sure that we're, honest and transparent with the community, because if we say, oh, we're going to take some of the debt off of us, we're not going to give as much to the WPCA. So we have more room on our credit card to spend a lot of money. And then the WPCA could vote to just raise their sewer rates, the tax rate on the sewers quite high. So, that could be a real, that could really hurt our residents. So I just want it to be all open and, transparent, so that our residents understand. You know,
Well, I
that-
think we have a pretty good start here in the documents in front of you. There's a section that shows WPCA plans, capital plans. It's broken out by, expected WPCA share and town share of that. That's subject to change depending on of like some sort of final agreement on the sharing philosophy. But it is all very transparent now. Really has changed over the years, given the amount of work that we're doing on the sewer system. Probably not something that you had to think about that much because there weren't a lot of projects going on. There was maybe, some I&I work, but now we have to, make it transparent. I think we are. I mean, it's.
No, I'm not saying you're not, Bill. I'm just saying, I believe me, I knew how many projects they had. It's why we moved to have that study done to get more.
Right, but they hadn't they hadn't gotten to the point where you had to.
Right, but their projects were sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And, frankly, it made me very uncomfortable because I knew that this was gonna be an explosion of money that was gonna need to be spent, and they needed to start spending it. And so it's frightening. I mean, I've seen their WPCA list, and it's a whopper. I mean, it's been like that. And you're right, they haven't really been moving their stuff. I think it's a big picture, like taxpayers are gonna pay one way or the other, right? They're gonna pay their property taxes based on, our budgets and what we're spending and what capital projects we're doing. And then the WPCA is gonna have to get that money from somewhere, and that somewhere is taxpayers, to your
So
point.
this,
Bill.
I actually, you had your hand raised. You want to?
Just in the comments about transparency, the WPCA is meeting tonight, 7:00. Just for those residents who might be listening to this meeting and wanting to know more,
Yep.
I would encourage people to turn in tonight because we'll be having some of these discussions at that meeting. And once decisions are made by that board, I'm sure they'll be coming to this board either through an update, which I'll be happy to give to the board, or as a voting item.
That would be great if you could, Christine, I think that would be helpful, not just for us as a board, but for anybody who might want to listen.
No, and absolutely. And very often I don't give WPCA reports because just the timing of the meetings, things come to us as action items. But for this, happy to give you an update after the meeting.
Not for your benefit or your benefit, but for the benefit of the public.
Yes.
I just want to say, the split is really important, even though most of the town is on sewer, 30% of the town is not. So there are some people in town that are actually on Bridgeport's sewer system. So, we've got to get the split. It has to be defensible because we don't want to actually overtax the people with septic as well. So that's a big part of the sensitivity. All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the schedule? I mean, you might want to, there are some big changes, and one of them is Fairfield Ludlow High School HVAC, which is coming in. The newest estimates are significantly lower than originally estimated. So that's one of the few instances of being pleasantly surprised.
Also factoring in the reimbursement piece too.
Oh, yes,
which
and
didn't
the
previously
state
exist,
is now
which-
reimbursing for HVAC, which they weren't before. So that's a big part of the adjustment as well. That's good news.
That is good news.
Yeah, and that came up. I was at the Board of Education's Facilities Committee meeting earlier, and they just asked to make sure that the reimbursement rates, being that that's changed on the latest version of the town waterfall, just to double check, because they haven't taken action, I guess, on the waterfall since the fall. But very good news, and I think just again, thank the committee's work on that for doing the due diligence, and the Board of Ed's approach of having the seed money for phase 2 to get better numbers was definitely the right approach. So.
Are we good? Should we move on or?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So this is now the new item 10, right? Refunds to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $49,289.85. May I have a motion? Any comment? Christine, tax refunds? She's not even listening. Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, unanimous. Item 11, some updates. Quick update on the 2025 budget sessions and vote schedule. So next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the Board of Selectmen will hold 3 budget sessions to discuss and review requests from departments. The Board of Selectmen will then vote on the budget on Monday, March 3rd. Beginning March 6th, the Board of Finance will hold its budget sessions, including a public comment session on Saturday, March 29th at 9:30 a.m. at Fairfield Ludlow High School. Following the Board of Finance vote on April 2nd, the RTM will hold its budget session in early May and vote on the budget on Monday, May 5th. The Board of Finance will set the mill rate on May 8th. The public is encouraged to attend these sessions in person or virtually, so please check the town calendar for any meeting changes, and please also check agendas for Zoom information and how to provide comments. Next, the Flood Master Prevention, Climate Resilience and Erosion Control Plan, public meetings. It's such a long, the board, FERB is holding public meetings. First of all, we officially kicked off with the town and FERB and a consultant, Weston and Sampson, who was hired for this purpose. The kickoff was on February 7th. The team's now focused on the initial planning and assessments for the project. So there are 2 public meetings scheduled. And Becky Bonello from FERB is the one who's hosting these. February 20th, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Fire Training Center, and March 1st at 1 p.m. at the Fairfield Library branch, the Woods branch, to provide an update and gather input from the community. So I want to thank the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board for its amazing work and really, I have to say, persistence on this topic, which sort of pushed us along to where we are now. And we hope to have a really good plan that can provide a blueprint for future work, construction work, and other work. Next, Penfield Pavilion. So Penfield, the contractor's been working to finish the deck board installation, the stairs and ramps. They'll continue to work until, and then actually the fencing has been removed. So we are going to have the first event of the new upgraded pavilion at the end of the month. And then lastly, want to mention 150 Villa Avenue. This piece of land was purchased by the town with the intention to put detention ponds on it to divert water from Algonquin and into onto this property. Made a lot of Bill Hurley and Mega Jane made a lot of progress with this, but when it came to the contractor going out and marking the trees that needed to be cut down in order to build the detention pond, the neighbors and myself, to be quite frank, we didn't realize that basically are cutting down most of the trees on that property. The neighbors finally saw what the impact would be of building those ponds and did not like what they saw and asked us to take another look at it. We held a town hall meeting with that neighborhood. This project really is to benefit that neighborhood. It is not part of the larger detention ponds at Tunstall Hill Park, Fairchild Wheeler, or Owen Fish Park that would impact large areas. This is really a more localized impact. And the neighbors felt that the trade-off of cutting all those trees down was not worth, almost universally voiced the opinion that it was just too much, and they disagreed with it. So we promised to go back and take another look at the design and see if there's a way to change the design of the detention ponds to avoid cutting down as many trees. And so that is where we are now. This project requires easements over one of the neighbors' properties. And if we can't get those easements because of opposition to the project, then the project will be less effective and possibly not worth doing. So we are in a holding pattern now while the project is being reassessed by the Capital Projects Management Group. Essentially, Eli Gazal from that group has taken personal responsibility for working with the firm, the design firm.
Bill, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, I'm very familiar with that area. Now, the Brook Lawn and Sachem and all those streets.
Yeah.
Bronquin. But that was gonna help also. I mean, it was an overall impact, all those detention ponds. And, the people who are really getting bombed out are on the other side. Brookfield and all those other streets across from Villa Avenue, not where 150 is. And that was supposed to, my understanding, was supposed to be part of the overall detention. So that the detention ponds on Tunxus, Villa, Owen Fish, Fairchild Wheeler, all were gonna fill up. Because those people on the other side of Villa, Brookfield, all those Warsaw, all those streets. I mean, those people, their whole houses were flooded. So, obviously this is very disappointing. I don't know how many trees we're talking about, but, it's concerning because this has been such a long process. And to hear now that it's gonna be delayed even further, I don't think I'm not Bill Hurley, who's been on this thing forever and ever. But he went, I can't tell you how many meetings that guy had and phone calls with Deep regarding these detention ponds. Is unbelievable, the amount of red tape. I worry that those people on the other side are gonna have an impact if we don't put those detention ponds in. So that's just my 2 cents. I think.
No, oh, sorry.
No, I was really just asking about people downstream from these detention ponds and what the
Yeah.
impact is of stalling the project. And also, are you working with individual neighbors? Is there a neighborhood association there?
There is a neighborhood association. And when we met at the Board of Ed building, a lot of people came out. And, I can only go by what Bill said, that the downstream impacts of this project, which is really a small or localized project, really not nearly as much red tape as the other projects, which required a lot of Army Corps of Engineer review. This one was pretty, it was expedited because it's, most of it's not really within their purview. So it required inland wetlands approval. Bill said, the downstream impacts of this project are minimal. It's really meant for the worst affected are the ones that are most against cutting the trees down. And that's sort of why, because part of it required easements from them, which right now they're not ready to give. So I do think, I do hope that within a relatively short period of time, with some adjustments, that it will be as effective as we had planned and hoped, and we can move forward with cutting down less trees. But the contractor went out and put red X marks on almost every tree on that property. And I think the reality hit the neighbors, and they had no real conception of what what that was going to be until they saw it. So I don't think we have a lot of choice other than to try to work with them to come to a resolution, because really the effectiveness of the project does require their collaboration.
Do you have a timeline? I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about new plantings, once the work is done and
Oh.
any kind of barrier or anything like that. I
Yeah,
totally understand. I have trees that I would be
yeah,
upset to
yeah.
see go, but also would not want my home to flood.
Yeah,
I
so
get
we
the
met
boundary
with,
that you're in.
yeah, we met with Tim Bishop, Conservation. Really Jeff Minder doesn't have as much to do with this, but Tim was very clear that we can replant. However, that didn't really placate the neighbors because, replanting will take some years to grow back and most likely it'll look different for a long period of time. So we can replant, we can make it beautiful. Tim will make it beautiful. I'm sure Jeff Minder will get involved and probably other groups. But that didn't really placate those neighbors which we need to collaborate with. So I'm hoping that we can come to a resolution because some of these neighbors are getting 4 feet of water on a bad storm. It's their houses. And so I know that they want to get something done and they were, I think they were just not prepared for the amount of change that was going to happen on this property. So,
Well,
yeah.
keep us updated if anything changes. Thank you
yeah.
for that.
Okay, well, that's it for me. Anyone have an announcement to make?
I would just, I'm assuming we're gonna get Christine and I'll get the budget on Friday, like past practice, so that we have 48 hours to review it before Monday. Is that,
Yeah.
okay? No, I don't have anything.
Well, fantastic. Can I have a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn.
So
Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Brenda. Thank you, Christine.
Sure.